Trân mến chào ông bà cô chú và toàn thể quý vị. Hôm nay ngày 21 tháng 7, đương kim Tổng thống Joe Biden tuyên bố rút lui khỏi cuộc tranh cử Tổng thống năm 2024. Ông đề cử Phó tướng Tổng thống là bà Kamala Harris ra tranh cử Tổng thống năm 2024. Quyết định rút lui làm chấn động nước Mỹ. Nước Mỹ lần đầu tiên trong lịch sử sẽ có nữ Tổng thống da màu đầu tiên. Bà Kamala Harris, 59 tuổi, cuộc chạy đua vào Nhà Trắng ngày càng gay cấn. Mời quý vị xem chi tiết.
And what happens next? President Biden's decision, a political earthquake. The race for the White House now thrown into disarray. The president endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris, saying while he wanted to run again, he's doing what's best for the party and the country. The new focus on the vice president. Does she have the party's and voters' support? Harris saying her intention is to earn and win the nomination, but will other Democrats challenge her? The timeline fast approaching, what it means for the Democratic convention getting on the ballot in all 50 states, and what happens to all that money raised for Biden. Former President Trump weighing in, what he told our correspondent about the new state of the race, but are they ready to take on whoever Democrats choose? All of this 1 week after an assassination attempt on the campaign trail. The president's legacy, half a century in public life, Biden's impact on the country, his achievements while in office amid his struggles. And finally, history playing out in real time, a political shakeup the nation hasn't experienced in nearly 60 years.
This is NBC Nightly News with Lester Holt.
Good evening and welcome. Tonight we are witnessing a major upheaval in American politics and the race for president. Just over 100 days before Americans go to the polls in November, President Biden has announced he will not seek re-election, writing a new chapter to his legacy. Today in a letter to the nation, the president saying it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down on his re-election bid. Mr. Biden has faced a steady erosion of support for his candidacy among Democrats in the weeks following his concerning debate performance last month. On the heels of his announcement, the president tonight endorsing Vice President Kamala Harris to succeed him on the top of the ticket. In a statement, the vice president announcing her intention to earn and win this nomination. But the path forward for Democrats and how they will field a ticket is highly uncertain tonight. We'll explore it all in our expanded coverage, beginning with Kelly O'Donnell at the White House.
A sharp turn for history. As President Biden announced at 1:46 p.m., there would be no last campaign for him. I believe it is in the best interest of my party and the country for me to stand down and to focus solely on fulfilling my duties as president for the remainder of my term. Then, in a separate statement, the president embraced his vice president. I want to offer my full support and endorsement for Kamala to be the nominee of our party this year, a move that attempts to blunt any effort to open the nomination process before the August convention. The president had praised Harris in a press conference that was intended in part to settle doubts about his candidacy.
Look, I wouldn't have picked Vice President Trump to be vice president, but I think she's not qualified to be president. So let's start there.
The vice president offered thanks to the Bidens and made her intentions clear. I will do everything in my power to unite the Democratic Party and unite our nation to defeat Donald Trump. Reaction tonight from former President Barack Obama, who called Joe Biden a patriot of the highest order, describing the decision as a testament to Joe Biden's love of country. Praise from Bill and Hillary Clinton for his extraordinary career of service, while highlighting their worry about the threat posed by a second Trump term. After a half-century of public life, his political brand was forged by being underestimated.
I know, like millions of Americans know, when you get knocked down, you get back up.
The president had tried to save his shot at a second term.
And I would not be running again if I didn't believe, with all my heart and soul, I can do this job.
But that did not quiet the pressure. After that June debate performance,
Look, if we finally beat Medicare,
an extraordinary rupture followed, a chorus of rejection that grew louder for weeks.
I think it's time for a new generation to try to heal the party and heal the country.
The president is not capable of delivering the message in an effective way.
I don't think he should stay there.
Kelly, what comes next for the president?
Well, the president says he will address the nation sometime this week, and aides say that is depending on his recovery from COVID. He remains at his Delaware beach house. The vice president has been at her official residence in Washington, and aides say she and the president have spoken multiple times today. Lester?
All right, Kelly O'Donnell starting us off. Thanks. Kristen Welker, moderator of Meet the Press, joins me now. Just Friday, the president said once he's over COVID, he'd be back on the campaign trail. What changed the calculus, Kristen?
Well, Lester, this moment has been building since the debate and really reached a fever pitch when Democratic leaders from Nancy Pelosi to Hakeem Jeffries, Chuck Schumer privately told President Biden they didn't think he could beat Donald Trump and that he could jeopardize Democrats' chances at holding on to the Senate and taking back the House. But it went beyond Democratic leadership. People who support Joe Biden were protesting outside of the White House, calling on him to pass the torch. Ultimately, Lester, the pressure became too great.
And as he throws his backing to the vice president, how competitive is she? What data do we have?
Well, Lester, Vice President Harris matches up against former President Trump very similarly to President Biden, though some polls show her doing a little bit better. In our most recent NBC News poll, Mr. Trump leads Mr. Biden 45-43, while Trump leads Vice President Harris 47-45. The big question is, how does she fare in blue wall states, Michigan, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania? Does she put states like Georgia back in play? Bottom line, Lester, I've been talking to Democrats who feel like once she reintroduces herself to the American public, they expect her poll numbers to go up. Lester.
All right, Kristen Welker, thank you. And we're hearing from Vice President Harris tonight thanking Joe Biden for his endorsement, but the question remains, will she get the full backing of Democrats? Here's Hallie Jackson.
The spotlight tonight turning to Vice President Kamala Harris, one of President Biden's most vocal backers since that debate widely panned as disastrous.
It was a slow start. There's no question about that. But I thought it was a strong finish. We are looking at a president in Joe Biden who has done historic work.
Now, the president's endorsement of Harris puts her in the pole position to take the top of the ticket. Harris, in a statement today, saying in part, "I am honored to have the president's endorsement, and my intention is to earn and win this nomination." Adding, "We have 107 days until Election Day. Together we will fight, and together we will win." In recent days, some of the president's key allies have signaled if he were to step aside, it is Harris who should get Democrats' support.
This party should not, in any way, do anything to work around Ms. Harris.
Congressman Jim Clyburn today publicly backing Harris, with other Democrats following suit. The exception, the party's top leaders in the House and Senate, stopping short of an endorsement but praising the president for his service. Whether it's Harris at the top of the ticket or not, other Democrats have been speculated to be in the mix, perhaps as a running mate, including California Governor Gavin Newsom.
President Biden doesn't run. Why shouldn't we consider you a likely?
I think the vice president is naturally the one lined up.
Pennsylvania's Josh Shapiro, Michigan's Gretchen Whitmer, Kentucky's Andy Beshear, and Transportation Secretary Pete Buttigieg. Harris, a former prosecutor who rose to become California's Attorney General, was elected to the Senate in 2016 and ran for the White House 3 years later.
I love my country. And I feel a sense of responsibility to stand up and fight for the best of who we are.
After being selected as President Biden's running mate, she was tapped by the White House to lead the administration's response on critical issues like the root causes of the immigration crisis, coming under fire from Republicans for the White House's handling of the border, and pressed by Lester on the topic in 2021.
We've been to the border. We've been to the border.
You haven't been to the border.
And I haven't been to Europe. And I mean, I don't understand the point that you're making. I'm not discounting the importance of the border.
Harris has taken on a vocal role advocating for abortion access, slamming the GOP for its position on reproductive rights.
How dare they tell a woman what she can do and cannot do with her own body? How dare they?
Now a pivotal political moment for Harris and the nation.
As we mentioned, time is short. Vice President Harris is already turning to fundraising to shore up support.
That's right, Lester. Late tonight, posting a link online for people to donate, saying she will do everything in her power to bring the Democratic Party together. A clear indication of her intention from now until Election Day, Lester.